that could potentially get out of hand here. So for the viewers here, this is all unscripted, but me and him are friends. And we've decided to do a totally different video from our normal content, which is going to be somewhat of a political, philosophical, just free chat, right? I
Yeah.
want to inspire some people here on my platform to come in and talk to me about all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to give the platform to my friend here and give him a shot to introduce himself and try and start what may be a very interesting conversation, and we'll see where it goes.
I hope so. Yeah, thanks for the intro. So I'm Preston. I'm, as the title says, I'm the communist here. So I'll see if I can hold my own against the libertarian over here, my other friend. And it's gonna be fun. We'll keep it light. We both try to keep a sense of humor about everything. So no need to no need to get angry. We just laugh it off, right? Let's
All
have some
right,
fun.
so go ahead and try and start this here because I'm not even sure how to lead into this one. I want to give you a shot to really, I'm going to
Yeah.
try and listen to some of your ideas, and then I'm going to respond however I. Uh,
Well, so let's see if we can start out swinging. I know we talked a little bit earlier about.
well, let's start out like this. We are friends, and it seems like
Oh
we
yeah,
actually see eye to eye socially on just about everything, which makes me
socially
think
for
that
sure.
maybe I'm naive, but I feel like this may actually be a good conversation that's unlike a lot of the stuff that is on YouTube. So
Yeah, it's
go
almost
wherever
like
you want to with that.
yeah. Well, so socially, like you said, we're both pretty much in agreement, as far as I know, and we haven't touched on everything. But like economically, if we're just going to go out swinging, like we were talking earlier about, like how much money is too much for one person to have. And the thing is, like, if you let people make as much money as physically possible, they're never going to stop. Like people literally will just keep going and going. It's like a high score on an arcade machine where they just literally want infinite. They want like an infinite score. And I'm like, okay, well, is that even necessary? And is that even useful? Because like as a society, that money, that value, that money is kind of just sitting idle. Like it could be doing other things. Even like not even just giving it to the poor, like it could literally just be used to start more businesses or like like solve problems, like scientific research. So I think the starting point is kind of just like asking the question like how much money is just being locked up in bank accounts just because people like to sit on their piles of gold. Like I get that, I get that there's investments and I get that people have like giant Wall Street brokerage accounts that are just growing daily. But I think the question is like, how much money can we be circulating? Because, I'm a finance major, so it's all about like velocity of money. And if you just
So I
have
want to
money
say
that's
something really quick.
go for it.
Morally,
Yeah.
I
Morally.
agree
Yeah.
with you, right? Morally,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
understand that nobody needs to have $100 billion, right? But when I say that I'm an ardent libertarian, it's like I have to almost battle my own belief here to try and agree with you that the government should do something about it because it's like the libertarians believe that the government should be almost completely hands off and that enterprise should be completely unrestricted and
Right.
that every
Unfettered. Yeah.
single person should be able to just like have unfettered access at the shot. But then you came down earlier, we were talking, you say, so you're for survival of the fittest. And it's like, well, no, morally, I'm a person that like involves myself with charitable things and tries and does good things for the world myself. It's not something that I think that the government should be responsible for. It's something that I expect good-hearted people like myself to step up to the plate and take on, right? But unfortunately, we live in a world that's ran by
Where not
greed
everybody is
and
good hearted.
Instagram
Right.
likes and viewers and making money. And
What a
so
shame.
then it becomes an absolute shit show that we live in now, where it's like, on one hand, it's like morally, I totally understand where some of the like democratic socialism and the like communist ideas
Communism.
come
Yeah.
from, but it's like my idea of how the government should be ran and like what they should be responsible for. I just trust them with everything, right? The last thing I ever want to do is hand power over to them or like give them control over my
Well, you don't really
possessions
have
or
a
money. So
choice.
here's where
But
I'm going
yeah.
to let you step in. and
Okay.
explain to me whether I'm thinking about a totalitarian version of your idea or what it is you are actually talking about here in reality, right? Because
Yep.
Donald Trump goes around and throwing the word communists out left and right. And it's like, I don't know what your opinion is. Like, you hear Zohran Mandami is a communist, and it's like, I don't know um, if that's the right word for it or whether I even understand what it is that you're trying to convey. So you've got the floor.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there. I think the best place to start is that communism is not a political ideology, it's an economic ideology. So you can have both libertarian communism or totalitarian communism because totalitarianism and libertarianism are political ideologies. Communism is an economic ideology. Like communism, capitalism are kind of like the two ends of the economic spectrum. Totalitarianism, anarchism are kind of the two ends of the political spectrum. So when people talk about communism has never worked because you have people like Mao and you have people like Fidel Castro and all the bad communist countries. Well, what people are actually pointing a finger at is the totalitarian aspect of the countries that pretended to be communist because they were never actually truly communist because if they were, everybody would have the same amount of money. And in none of those examples did everybody in the country have the same exact
Okay,
income.
so let's pause there for a moment.
Deal.
Explain what you mean by that, because when you say something like that everyone would have the same amount of money, and you also say at the same time that you could have a libertarian version of communism, it's
Right.
like a double negative, because how would you ever make that happen without the government forcing me to hand my earnings over to them?
Mhm. Okay, so I will start that answer with there is no such thing as a pure capitalist or a pure communist country. They're kind of like they're like infinities on either end of a number scale, and everything in the middle is socialism. So like basically let's call it a number line. I'll put communism as a negative number, why not? 0 is perfect socialism, and as you go farther negative, you get closer and closer to communism, but infinity, you never reach infinity. And as a positive number to capitalism, you get higher and higher, but you never actually reach capitalism. Because pure capitalism would be like child slavery, slavery, just generally. I mean, that the government had to step in and end that, by the way, but that's a different conversation. Um, so
No, because
basically,
that's something that I like. You wouldn't be allowed to have that. It's not like you just have the Wild West. You still have laws, and like, you can't just
okay,
eliminate the law enforcement entirely. You still have to have control over certain aspects of society and hope that the people are going to be wise enough to um, want it, right? Like, it's not like in a libertarian government that that would ever be something that would be acceptable. And I would really hope that I'm not conveying
no, 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 no,
the
no, and that's not
latter,
my point.
right?
That's not my point.
Yeah.
That's not my point. My point was that basically libertarians have to choose how much government they want. And I think the internal divide in libertarianism is that basically everybody has a different opinion about how much government is enough government or too much. So it's kind of like, yes, we agree slavery is bad, but what does it take to prevent slavery? Well, you need a military and you need a justice system. Okay. We need a currency. I mean, generally we tried running a society without currencies and it kind of was a shit show, right? So we need a central bank, at least for now, until crypto automates that, but that's a different conversation. So if we run the line of how much government does a libertarian want, it's not that communists are not saying like we want to send the military around and at gunpoint take people's money away from them. That's not the point. The point is, and I don't like quoting Karl Marx because I'm not really a big fan of Karl Marx, but
You can quote whoever you want, man.
I
It's a
know. Well,
free
so no, yeah,
discussion.
no, I know. I prefer Kropotkin, and it's actually a philosophical difference because Karl Marx was kind of he gets a lot of the popularity, but he wasn't really the smartest communist. So kind of like he's kind of like a punching bag within philosophical circles because he wasn't really like the best, but he's popular. So he's kind of like a Jordan Peterson, where like everybody thinks he's like a really cool philosopher, but he's just popular. Like he hasn't come up with anything new. But anyway, that was a tangent. Um, Karl Marx said basically that automation, technological automation, is going to inevitably bring about a communist society, because as generations continue to automate and societies get more efficient, like like right now, you look at this
You're
point where like
saying because once AI takes over to the point where it's no longer feasible for the public to like get a job on their own, it's like people are going to actually have to rely on
on
like
technology,
these type of things to even
like
keep it afloat.
dividends, right? Like dividends from the government, where the government's just going to collect
And this
all
is
this
where,
money.
as a guy who's involved in AI, I'm almost scared of my own creations, right? Because it's like, here I am over here on YouTube laughing about the fact that I can make these Hollywood like quality like movie sequences, but it's like in reality, like it may actually be leading to what you've just said, which is like the change of the entire world order, which is something that's
Inevitable.
going to be very scary if it does happen, when it does
Now,
happen.
people
In
are
my
only
mind,
scared because we're scared of the unknown, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how it's going to happen, and that's scary. But like, it doesn't need to be scary. I think not thinking about it and not talking about it is probably the worst way to handle it, because if we know something is inevitable and we know that it's coming, we should probably talk about how to handle it. But right now, everybody's kind of just like la 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 la. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to think about it. And I'm like, all right, where are the adults in the room that are going to be like, all right, look, we need to talk about the birds and the bees of AI. Like, it's coming. No pun intended. Sorry. Like, we need to acknowledge the 8,000-pound gorilla in the room and be like, yeah, you know what? Industries are going to get automated,
like that thing's getting
and
pretty big, isn't it? It looks
it's
hungry.
and everybody and everybody's trying to pretend like the gorilla is not like getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm like, it's huge at this point, and we need to like acknowledge it. And everybody's like, what gorilla?
No,
That
it's
thing? Oh,
knocking the
that's not a
china
gorilla.
off the shelves, dude. It's like running around crazy right now, and no one's even
I
acknowledging
know.
it, right?
I know.
Or we're just
So
so stuck in the Instagram reels of, Stephen Hawking at the X Games that we don't realize that like everything's literally about to get taken over by this stuff here soon. And
well, so I think the analogy is the frog getting boiled in the kettle, or in the pot, right? So if you throw a frog in a hot pot of water, it jumps out. But if you put a frog in a pot of cold water and then you slowly turn the volume, or you turn the heat up, it dies because it doesn't realize, degree by degree, it's getting cooked alive. So I think I'm sure there are smart people behind the scenes that know how to like release this stuff to the public. You and I peek behind the curtain because we use it every day, but like it's happening. Like the robots are now walking around society, funny robots, but then come the robots that take the jobs. So like you got to start with funny robots so that they're like cool and exciting,
well, this
and
is the
then
way they do everything, right? Like, this
mhm,
is how they start wars. This is how the media's ran for the most part. Like,
you
the
boil the
people
frog.
are kept, no, well, they keep you distracted, right? And focused on the wrong thing, where no sort of serious conversations between either side can ever take place because the media just constantly pushes out rage bait, and you go on Instagram and it's just full of brain rot, and you keep people in such a state of distraction that the only
Echo
thing that ever
chambers, yeah.
makes it through is the extremes on either side of either idea. That's all people ever hear about, and they
The
don't
fringe.
realize that the majority of people, even people that happen to have beliefs on the opposite sides, actually, when they get to talking, it's like if you would just like be able to see through the noise and realize how much people truly have in common. It's
Oh,
like
the vast
you'd
majority of
realize
people,
you would
yeah,
realize that the news is not an accurate representation of what's
right.
going on. They cherry pick the fringe from either side and the
The
most
exciting
the
headlines.
most the most
Rage
outrageous
bait.
things out there to keep the people tuning in and going after each other and sending more in. It's just as much of a business as it is actually
Oh, it is a
reporting
business,
anything.
literally.
Yeah, no,
Like
like it's about money and views,
and
and
views and
every
clicks.
single news channel, regardless of which channel it says at the bottom, they're, you know, they have their own special interests, man.
Investors, they
There's
have
people up at the
investors and
top
profit
that say,
margins.
hey, don't run that story or run this one, even though it's 10 times less significant than the other one.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether you turn on MSNBC or Fox, you're just going to get a different style of the same, nonsense from
Right.
either side.
Well, and to your point about most people in the middle, because the vast majority, I'd say probably at least 2/3 of each side are pretty much centrist. They just don't really care enough to think too much about what they believe because so
Well,
as a
so
as a
that's what I
as
was
a
just saying, because
yeah,
most people
yep,
are centrists and the news only shows
mhm,
you the extremes on either end.
yep,
It's like you just keep those people there in the middle so distracted that, like, when you read the election results and you read that like only 60 million Americans voted out of
mhm.
like however many were eligible,
350,
it's like,
whatever,
are
yeah.
you kidding me? 70 million people didn't even bother to go to the ballot box. It's like you have a minority of the country selecting. I'm pretty sure that's what you meant when you said the popular vote doesn't actually select the president, because not every eligible person even
Even
goes to
votes.
the ballot box, right?
Well, but
It's
even when they
just
do,
chosen. It's only chosen by the motivated people on either side, which just so happen to a lot of the time fall into the
the fringe.
extremes on either side, right?
Yeah,
Because you've got all
yeah,
those centrists here in the middle
because
that
they have
can
no other
really help
hobbies.
resolve things that just stay out of the situation entirely, because it becomes so messy that nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, or they just don't care, because I think most people most people think they care about politics, but they only think about it once every 4 years when they need to vote,
Or right, when
like you
it
said,
actually
and even
affects their
then,
life, when
yeah,
something
and
major actually happens, that it's like, okay, no, this is
now they
actually
care.
upending
Right.
my life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And, so again, I'll take a quick tangent here. So I was a big fan of Socrates. He was a good example of going around and basically asking people what they believe, and most of the time, they didn't even really know why they believed what they believed. They just kinda kept telling themselves that they believe something, and then, like, you ask 2 or 3 questions about, "Well, why? Why?" And then they go, "Well, you know what? I don't know, because I never really thought about it." They just kinda picked something 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and through sheer inertia, just
Well,
kinda
that's what I
kept.
was told to believe. That's what my
Yeah, well,
parents
yeah,
believed.
yeah,
That's what they
yep,
taught me in school. That's what this,
mm.
that's what that.
On both
Like,
sides, by the way.
right.
That's on both sides. So I'm not picking favorites
No,
at
no,
either.
this is supposed to be a very open chat. Like, we're not even really debating
And
here. We're just trying
and
to get a better
Socrates doesn't pick
understanding of each
sides.
other
Yep.
uh, for the benefit of other people, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
I think we're both people that are pretty confident in what we're saying, right? So, like, we
And
both
it's
want
possible
more
to just
people to hear
talk.
us, right? And we're not
Yep.
fighting each other. So it's free
No.
game. You keep saying, well, that's for another chat. It's like, no, go all in on AI, go all in
Well,
on
that's
digital currency, see what gets the viewers to tick up. Like, it can go
my point
anywhere
being
we
that,
want, really.
we don't wanna be here for 8 hours because we gotta sleep eventually. But, like, let's see, what do I wanna run with next? It's kinda like basically, and I won't touch on religion because that can go pretty far. But basically, any political topic, most people will read a headline or listen to a headline on their favorite news channel, and then immediately go back to Instagram and start watching memes. Because to them, entertainment is way more fun than education. Education is work, and it's boring a lot of times, and it's hard and it's frustrating. So 9 times out of 10, people are going to spend their day trying to look for something funny to watch or something fun to watch. They don't want to read a book,
Well, see,
really.
this is where the problem comes in, because
This is
then the
that, well, of
news
course.
turns into the comedy channel and they
Well,
try to pick stories that, like you say, somehow convince the people to step away from Instagram, or like they pick anchors that like are just almost telling jokes
attractive.
up on the thing, or attractive, yes, like
Yep,
just to get the attention away from Instagram, right? Because the only
yep.
way they can get them now is like, all right, well,
You
we
gotta be
need
sexy or
45
funny.
seconds that just grabs you. And yeah, you got to be
Mhm.
sexy, funny, the wrong, nothing to do with like what the news looked like in the
The
1980s, when
concept,
you could like
right,
actually trust that, okay, so ABC is reporting this. This must be fact checked and
in
like
theory. I
done,
mean, this problem's been around forever. Like, it's getting worse now because people's
maybe
attention
that was an
spans are
illusion.
shrinking.
Maybe that was an illusion before the internet came out, that you could trust the media. And once the internet came out, like it's becoming more and more clear to people as more and more people become empowered to somewhat like talk about things themselves that, like,
Oh yeah,
this
there's a
was all
public
controlled
discourse.
and measured the whole time, right?
Yeah, well, it goes back to, William Randolph Hearst back in the 1920s or even earlier, when he invented yellow journalism, where he was basically the guy who went, instead of just reporting the facts, because that's boring, we should write sensational headlines. We should
I'm
report
still
on
here.
like,
I'm listening.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We should talk about like sex scandals and just raunchy stuff in the news. Because before, I mean, he wasn't technically the first one, but William Randolph Hearst basically went like, the news should be entertaining, because if it's entertaining, a lot more people are going to read it. Not just nerds, people who care about politics. Everyone's going to read the news if you have tabloids, right? Celebrity gossip. Celebrity gossip is news. I mean, it is news, air quotes, just because it's like celebrity gossip versus like war, and economics. They're two different ballparks, but celebrity gossip gets way more attention. Like, I'll bet you more people care about Taylor Swift's wedding than care about what's going on at the White House on any given day. Like, yeah, you and I follow politics, so I think we care, but I'm just saying, like, the general population, sports news, celebrity news, like, that's where everybody's attention is by design because, like, it's fun. You don't really have to think. You can turn your brain off, and you can just be like, "All right, cool, I'm off work. I don't wanna think about politics because it hurts my brain, so I'm just gonna." And I will say,
Let's
we've
try and
deviated
like
from
get
communism
back
again.
into, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was
Let's
about to
try and
say,
get
like,
back
here
towards
we
the
are with,
title of the video
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
you and I can talk for hours, but like I want to talk about the juicy stuff, right? Because
Deal, deal.
a lot of people when they hear that word, it's just like gag reflex,
Communism. Oh,
like,
I
right?
know.
Like, so
It's
what
like
do
a
you mean
four-letter
by that?
word.
I really want to try and understand what this would look like in America, or how it's even possible in America, and
So,
why you say I shouldn't be afraid of it. Because
well,
historically,
so,
I've been very, very opposed to this and afraid of it, and um, I'm going to
well,
let you
because you've
explain to
been
me what
told to
this
be
would
afraid
look
of it.
like.
Yep, yep. You've been told to be afraid of it because it's Mao and it's Stalin and it's Fidel Castro. But basically, if I could put it in a soundbite or like a punchline, communism is basically just an attempt to close the wealth gap. And you're never going to close it entirely. Like I said, true perfect communism where everybody has the same amount of money, that's probably never going to happen. But if you aim for that, you're going to get a lot closer than if you aim only halfway. Because it's kind of like if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you still land among the stars kind of thing. If you aim for perfect communism, you might get halfway and you get socialism. If you aim for socialism, you only get halfway, you get what we have now, which is America. America's halfway between capitalism and socialism. Is it perfect? No. I'd say we still have a lot of homeless people.
So let's do the controversial part. Are you saying that your idea of a perfect America would be an America where the government controls how much wealth people are allowed to have and redistributes it amongst the population so that everyone has an equal amount of money?
No. So this
Because
goes
you
back to
just
the,
said that was perfect. I'm trying to
yes, yep, we're
understand.
getting there. We're getting there.
Perfect is in like on the scale, is in like fully down that way, or like your version of perfect?
So
I'm a very
philosophically,
literal
well, literal. Let's go to the
literal
very end.
person,
Let's
right?
start at the end and work back then. Um, Everybody's created equal, spiritually, or just humanistically, right? All men are created equal. All women, humans are equal, at least
Well,
spiritually.
this is nuanced, right?
Okay.
Because people do have higher IQs than other people, and people do have skills that other people don't have. And so this is where it comes into, so you're a survival of the fittest guy, right? So
No, no, no.
I
You
believe
are.
that the
I said you
people,
are.
no, no, right. No, I'm saying
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
talking
Gotcha.
about
Gotcha.
myself.
Gotcha.
So it's
Gotcha.
not that I want to take things from other people morally, right? Or like be better than people or defeat people, right? Like, but like, my idea of a free country, it's like the people with the um, more favorable characteristics, the more charisma, the higher IQs, the better life decisions are going to be the ones that win, and there are going to get people that are going to be left behind. And so the difference the main difference that comes in here in this conversation isn't between what we think morally. It's
Mhm.
what we think the government should do about it. Because I'm the guy that's over here doing lives with people on here from all across the world and trying
Right.
to like build a platform to like build up charities and stuff. But
Mhm.
that's not because the government told me to do it. That is because
Right.
I am a good person and have
And you
chosen
are
in my
fortunate
own free
enough.
time on my own free will and to do it, right? It's not because somebody told me that I had to do it. And like the sad part is that even though I understand that most of the world won't step up to the plate, and that like if you didn't
Or
like
can't.
didn't well, that or that they won't
Through their own ignorance.
through their own ignorance and life choices won't have the ability to do so, even though in
But do you think
theory,
they would
they
if they
could have
could?
been very successful. I think that a lot of people that are down bad, if they became successful, they would not immediately turn into evil, greedy people. I think that a lot of them would actually spend the rest of their life and their wealth trying
On
to
philanthropy, maybe. I would hope.
maybe I'm naive. Maybe this is
So
because this is what I would do.
can I ask
Sure,
you a
I'd go
question?
buy a Porsche, but I would also be spending time over across seas trying to like do all sorts of things for the world as well. But it's
Right.
like, does the government get to tell me that I can't buy that Porsche? Like, well, no, I did
No.
everything right. No, I don't want to say it this way, but it's like if you are smarter than everyone else and you happen to do better, it's like, do you really want to punish that in society, right? Like, because part of the reason why you say perfect capitalism, if it were to actually exist, isn't really necessarily probably something that you even hate, right? Like, if it was to actually exist how it's supposed to, like, the best thing that you could ever have is a society that encourages people to succeed, and that if you chase after something, you will do better than other people, and that it is possible. Like, because then you're going to have a bunch of super motivated people that are going to go out there and try
Well,
and
they'll do anything
do
they need to
impossible
win.
things, right? Like to win, right? Like,
So I guess I would ask you a question. What can I ask you now? What is a perfect capitalist society?
um, so you see how hard it
Survival of
gets
the
when you
fittest.
when you
Well,
say perfect, because then I
well,
have to
okay,
dig
ideal. How about
super
ideal is
you,
a
you
better
have to
word.
dig super deep morally within yourself and say like, well, like, will the people actually step up the way that I'm saying? Or would this only happen if you had the right leader, right? Because if you've got the wrong leader, like if you don't have someone inspiring people to do it, or like just public figures amongst the population driving the people towards
Yeah,
it, like, no,
yeah.
people are going to go down the route that they're going right now, which is me
Greed.
against everybody else, greed, like, get the likes, forget what everyone else says,
So
how
I
it's
think
going.
we're dancing around a question here, which is I should
What
ask,
was your question? I didn't even answer your question. I
that's
gave
fine,
you
that's
a.
fine. That's fine. Do you think people are intrinsically good or evil? Meaning selfish or selfless, I think is a better word, because good and evil are that's very vague. So
I think
literally,
people are intrinsically good, and that we live in
selfish
a
or
very,
selfless?
very, very unfortunate time period, right? Where like it's very hard to stick by your morals and stand up against the crowd and say anything that you believe in, regardless of what it might be, right? So then
Hmm.
people scare away from all sorts of things that they would do if they weren't afraid of how the world would respond, right? I think a lot of people are intrinsically good and would love to start charities or even do interviews and stuff, but like when you see other people up there, like, we're not going to name many names, but like when people get shot,
Uh,
and it's like you see that the only thing they've ever done is had a religion or had a microphone and went up there and just be bold about it. It like scares people
mhm.
out of the idea that it's even possible for like conversations to occur amongst people, like
Yeah.
I really would love to say that everyone's intrinsically good, But because of all the nonsense and stuff we have in the news and how polarized things have become, we've actually convinced each other that we're enemies within our own country, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, why would we want to go do charity for
Well, it's because
people
basically
whom
we're at
we
peace.
hate, right?
Yeah. So the pendulum of any given country, the pendulum is when you're at peace, people start fighting internally. When you're at war, people band together and fight against the common enemy. So the problem is if you have a country that's at peace for too long and you don't teach people how to get along,
Have an enemy image. No, I've heard a lot about
th-
this. Yes, and
so
it's
the
repeated
the
through history
quickest way to
so
unite
many times.
people, yep, the quickest way to unite a people is to give them a common enemy. So when you don't have an external enemy, like when you're at war, you then have a house divided, which is red versus blue. And so that's 1984, right? The whole point of 1984 is like you just need a perpetual external enemy to unite the country all the time so that everybody's always working together.
Yeah.
And so obviously that's probably what Venezuela is basically, is like kind of an attempt to give everybody something to aim for. I think it's
Well, I
we
think
don't have
right
to talk
now
about it,
America
but
kind of has a lack of an enemy. Like
well,
to like so in the past historically, like let's go
arguably
to
we are the enemy of
World
the
War
world.
II, right? Like they did the Japanese, and then it became Vietnam, and then it becomes North Korea, and then it becomes Iraq, and then it becomes this, and then it becomes that, and then it's like, oh well, we got to go help Israel to stop these people there, and it's
We said the
like,
magic
so
word.
here's where the libertarian idea comes in, right? That
Yep,
like
yep.
even though morally I see things happening all over the world, and morally, if I had power to stop it, like, and I wasn't like restricted by a constitution, like
Mhm.
I would do something with it with the military. But like where the libertarian like comes in and says like, well, we're
That's
not supposed
government
to be the world's
intervention.
policeman. The
Yeah,
only
yeah.
thing that should ever provoke a military response from us is shots fired or a
Right,
rocket
defense.
coming at us, right?
Department of
Like,
Defense, not Department of Offense. Yeah.
right. No, I think that that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen, changing that to the Department of War. That's just like, dude, but we're literally not even getting
Uh, it's
that's a
showboating.
joke.
Yeah.
That's a joke. So we're not
Don't get
even
me
gonna talk
started on
about that.
Pete Hegseth, but whatever.
Um, all right.
Pete, you know what? Pete Hegseth is my favorite person. He's very cool. I love him. He's very cool and smart.
So what explains me explain to me as clearly as possible what this would look like in America, like what could actually get
Socialism.
implemented, what it is that you're trying to tell me exactly that you do support. Because the only time I've ever seen communism is in countries that look absolutely nothing like what I
Right.
want. But you tell me that, like, well, no, those are totalitarian
Uh,
dictatorships, and this is not even what it is that I'm talking about. So I'll
Yeah, it
humor
wasn't
you
even.
and give
Yeah.
give you the benefit of the doubt to explain what it
Okay.
is that you're saying when you say that, and what it is that you are trying to say that you think is possible here in America, or even how you think that the rise of machines may make it necessary
Or
for me
inevitable.
to
Yeah.
inevitable.
Yeah.
Because that's
So
really where I'm most interested, right? Is because I almost like, I don't know that I disagree with that statement. You might be right about that.
it's not me. Karl Marx said it. So I'm just saying he made the point like 100, I don't know, 150 years ago, roughly. And we'll see where it goes. But to answer your question, I think the best way to say like the first step, because we can talk about the end goal of like closing the wealth gap as much as possible, and over time, that's going to take generation after generation of people incrementally closing the wealth gap. But I think the first step is like I think it might have been Bernie Sanders who said like billionaires shouldn't exist. He may not have said that, but that sounds like something he would say. The billionaires shouldn't exist. Like basically, if you have $800 million, you're probably okay for life. Do you need $800 billion? Um, I don't really know, like marginally, like what one person really needs
Okay, so is
$50
this
billion
like
dollars. So like
you're
basically
saying
once
for
you
a
hit $1 billion,
sole person though? Because like think about it, a company that gets rather
yeah, let's
large
start.
can make a
Yeah,
billion
and work
dollars
on. Yeah,
very
yeah,
easily. Is a company allowed to have $1 billion of cash on hand for their like a company that makes cell phones, right? Is going to probably have 70 billion on hand. Or when
right,
you look at the stock market and you look at what Twitter was valued at when it got purchased, I believe it was around 45 billion, right? So
right.
like
I'm starting with individuals, right? Because if companies are creating that much value, they're solving a problem. For a person to then carve out a lot of that value for their own personal spending, like there's only so much food you can eat in a day. You can only live in one house at a time. You can only drive one car at a time. So I think the question is like we don't even ask like how much money can a person even possibly consume? Like they're
so
literally
one thing
just
I'm curious about when they say that Elon Musk is the world's richest man, how
yeah.
much of this cash do we think that he actually has on
Oh,
hand,
it's
and
mostly not cash. Like
how much
it's
of it's
equity.
floating around in the stock markets and equity and like
Hmm.
because if you think about it,
Yep. Here
so
we
they
go.
say Elon Musk has all this money, right? But like what if it's is most of it invested in real world assets and companies that are ran by other people that like end up boosting up other people's payrolls and earnings and
I would
stuff
hope
as
so.
well?
I would hope
Well,
so.
I'm trying to understand because I'm
Yeah.
not
So
an
I'll get
economist.
there.
I'm
Yep. I'll
simply
get
a
there.
citizen that has a mic. I'm trying to understand like how the government would intervene with what's going on right now and like what's even the truth, right? Because I don't think when Elon Musk signs into his Chase app that it just says 400 billion, right? Like his net worth
That would actually
probably
not be
says
a good
that, right?
idea. Yeah. Financially, so financially, you probably don't want that much cash just sitting in a bank. Because then what is it? I think the saying is if you owe the bank $1 million, they control you. But if you owe the bank $100 billion, you control the bank. And I'm butchering that quote, but basically, like, if you have that much money in a bank, you own the bank, basically. But to answer your question, we'll keep going back to the communism thing. Like, the point is, Elon Musk, let's say, I don't know what percentage he owns of Tesla. Let's say for sake of conversation, he owns 10% of Tesla. And all of his money comes from the fact that he owns 10% of Tesla. I would ask you, do you think Elon Musk single-handedly produces 10% of Tesla's value? Or is it the engineers and the marketing team and the accounting team and the sales team?
But so
Because he got
what
in
I
early. He got in
think,
really early, and he
what
carved out a
I
really big
think
piece of the
as a
pie.
person though,
We're having a
often
dialogue, that's why. Yeah.
what I think as a person um, often doesn't like work with what I view with the government's uh,
We got a comment here,
power,
sorry.
right? I don't listen to that. They distract me. I looked down at it and I got
I
tripped
know
up.
that's a really funny
Um,
talk. Okay, we'll stop.
what I'm saying is like, so morally, a lot of the times I believe something is wrong, but I don't believe that the government has any power to stop it, right?
You keep going back to the government. I mean, I get that. I get that you're as a
No, because the
libertarian, your whole
only way
point
that you
is
would ever be
government
able
intervention.
to stop it is with
Right.
the barrel of a
Because
gun, right?
right, basically the government is a gun, and you need to if people won't give up their money because they want to sit on a Mount Everest of gold coins, then you're like, all right, buddy, you need to like you need to share a
And
little bit
I'm
because you're
saying
never
the police being sent in. I'm not talking
yeah,
about
or the
anything
FBI or the
crazier. I'm
IRS. Yeah,
saying
we're talking
the
about the
police would
IRS
have to be
basically.
sent in to stop that, right? Because until then, Elon Musk is going to own whatever amount of stock that he wants to.
Hmm.
But so the other part about this that I'm interested in learning about is like, so if you tried to control, like, wouldn't this change the entire way the stock market worked and like almost a lot to do with
Interesting
the
point.
way people look at things monetarily? Because if he can't own 10% of Tesla, that would tank all the other shareholders' stocks as well and their
No,
value that they've gained from it. No,
no,
because
it's that his
yes, like the
employees would own more. He would have a smaller piece of the pie, but every other employee would own more of the pie.
How?
Well, so currently the way it works, when you start a company, basically, if you're a sole owner, you own 100% of the company.
You own all the stocks when it starts,
You own all the shares. So
and
you
you have to
issue,
sell them.
and then you start selling them piece by piece as
Okay,
you want to
because I
raise
didn't know
money.
this.
Yep. So I'm financially how it's like I start a company, I own 100%. If I want to go raise money, I have to sell a percentage for amount. Whatever percent you sell times the amount of money that you sell it for becomes a multiple for your market capitalization, the value of the company. So if you sell 10% of your company for $1 million, it's a $10 million company. So if I sell 10% to an investor for $1 million, I still own 90%. Now, let's say things are going well, I start growing and I need to raise more capital. I sell another 10%, but now my company is more valuable, so I can sell it for $10 million. Well, now my 10% gets sold for 10 million. Now it's a $100 million company. Eventually, you start doing this with private investors, and you get to the point where now the company is worth so much, you can't raise enough money from one person or a group of people. You IPO, initial public offering, then you sell it to the public market. And now anybody, well, any adult, I guess, well, yeah, any adult, whatever, investing, the public market has so many regulations. Anybody can go buy a share on the open exchange, NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange. Now the thing is, if
So
you
if
capture
I
a lot
start
of
a company,
value,
right? If
yep,
I start a company
yep,
and I become extremely successful and I go
mhm,
public
mhm.
and I start making too much money, how
Well, it's not that you're
does the
making too much money.
government control my ownership of my own creation?
So basically what you're asking me to do right now is how to solve the wealth gap, and I think that's still an open question. I mean, we could solve it on this call. I think that'd be fascinating, but I think it comes down basically to the
Well, I'm
IRS.
saying hypothetically, let's
Hypothetically,
say I became a billionaire. Let's say that like somehow what I'm doing here turned into something absolutely massive and I turned into some business genius like Elon
mhm,
Musk and built myself into a fortune that I could never hope to
never
spend.
consume with 100 lifetimes. Yeah.
At what point in time does the government come in and take control of my assets and tell me that you have exceeded what you're allowed to own? And like, how does this work? Because unless
So
somebody's stopping me,
yeah, you're just gonna hold on to all of it because why would you give it away? I mean,
well, me personally,
you personally
I
would
would do
because
all
you're a good
kinds of
person.
great things with it.
Right, right, because you're
But
a good
that's the
person.
shopping cart conundrum.
Exactly. Not everybody has their shopping carts back, and not everybody gives away their wealth when they make too much. So, I think so I'm a pacifist,
So
right? I
it's
don't believe
not that
in.
I disagree, right?
Yeah, yeah, I get it, but pragmatically, we need to find, like, an actual literal path forward, and I would say the first approach is public pressure. Like, you need to get people to just start asking this person. If Elon Musk, if everywhere Elon Musk goes, everybody starts asking him, "Why do you need that much money? Why do you need that much money?" And you just put that question in his head all day, every day. Eventually, I think he's gonna go, "Wow, you know what? This is really annoying. I'm gonna start giving my money away just to shut people up." Okay, I think I think that's a good first approach. Is you literally just kind of like shame them, kind of like, really, dude, you need like $600 billion, and every restaurant he goes to, his private jet stewardess asks him, his wife asks him. He doesn't have a wife, but
Now, is
you
this
know,
just for like, is this, where does the lion come in though? Like, is this just for
it's a
billionaires?
it's a
Because
first step.
you could argue that no one needs $100 million either, and
All
that
right,
like that an
yep.
actor
So
hasn't done anything but stand in front of a camera the same way I have and gotten lucky, right? Like that really you could say, there's people out there that are just as good as this actor, or if not better, and that you had connections and a life starting point that was different than me, and that's the only reason you've made it.
well,
Right.
so
But
again,
like,
I believe
so
in
morally,
meritocracy. Yeah,
morally, this is where the paradox comes in, right? Because I
maybe.
can I can believe all that though, but like still be ardently opposed to the government taking any action about it, right?
Hmm. Right. So I think the problem
I
is when
can
most people hear,
believe that somebody doesn't need to make $90 million off a movie deal and to recognize that, oh my God, this Instagram stuff and this TikTok stuff is going to literally destroy the country that I live in. And like also, but see, then that's where it gets confusing, right? Because it's like, so like if I believe this, it's like, and I allow the people total freedom, it can backfire in my face, right? Because what if the people make the wrong
yeah,
decision and
hmm
there's no
if you
government to
allow
fall
people to
back
do
on,
whatever they
right?
want and there's no government, exactly, then people can do whatever they want.
Right.
And
So it's like,
historically, people will do some pretty nasty things for money, generally speaking. So
what would
like,
happen, right, if the military completely pulled out of the entire world and the IRS ceased to
well,
exist and
and there
taxes
no
weren't a
cops.
thing and there, well, not there, you can't go that far, at least not in my, because I'm smart enough to understand this would never work. And that if you literally went back to the Wild West, that you're just going to have shootings going off in the street.
Yeah,
This would not benefit
law and
humanity,
order is
even
a good
though
thing
maybe you're saying that's like, yeah, I mean, to a degree though, because no,
to a
like,
degree,
if you all drugs would be
as with
legal.
everything.
Gay married couples would be protecting their marijuana plants with guns in a world that was not at war, and they would buy them with Bitcoin and
Not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's terrible. Hedera
or
Hashgraph
Dogecoin
or
or
Dogecoin. I like Dogecoin.
you understand, right? Like
Yeah,
total
yeah, yeah,
freedom, right? Like
yeah. Yep.
but there would also be no government to fall back on. You're not going to be like, oh my God, I've just lost my job. And it's funny to say I'm a libertarian right now and I've filed for unemployment, right? Like
Yeah. Well,
I'm
but
using the
social
government, right?
services aren't bad. So I think the thing is like roads are a good thing generally. Like having dirt roads everywhere would damage everybody's cars and it would cost everybody more. So it's cheaper to pay taxes for roads than it is to pay to fix your tires and your paint all the time because you're driving on dirt roads everywhere. So financially,
Now, I'm
economically, it
not
actually
positive if this is true, but I've read and heard that every single tax dollar that's collected just goes straight back to the deficit, and that none of it actually goes towards the roads or anything to do with infrastructure. That's all just more money that's been borrowed from the Fed after the fact. Really, if
yeah,
you
but the deficit is spending. So when we're paying off the debt, the deficit, we're spending money that we don't have to do things like fix the roads, right? Because you've seen construction workers on the road, like it's actually happening. But
yeah,
we're like the deficit just means we're borrowing to do this stuff. It's like we're maxing out our credit card. Basically, this country has a credit card, and we have just constantly we have a $10,000 limit, and every month we're at $10,000, and like we only make let's say we only make
yeah,
five
we
thousand
just
dollars
make
a
the
month.
minimum payment.
We make $5,000 a month, and we're like, oh, I can only ever pay off a couple $1,000s of my credit card every month. So you're just constantly like asking for, hey, you call your bank and go, can I have a $20,000 limit? Okay, and then you max that out. Okay, you go, can I have a $30,000 limit? Like, but you're still spending every month and you're paying it down, but you're paying it down slower than you're spending, which is why the deficit is increasing. All they're really doing is just calling their bank every month saying, can you please increase the limit on my credit card? Because I want to go spend more.
If the
And
government was collecting money from all these billionaires, like in the fashion that you're suggesting, or even in an increased way from now, would it be being
marginally,
used to pay that down?
that's the point,
Because this
is
is
that,
something, okay, well, so this is why I'm asking,
and here
because
we go.
I'm of the
Exactly.
impression that that will never be paid back and that it's just going to divulge into war one day. And that's
Well,
like
you want
civil
to know
war
why it's not being paid down is because the richest
because
people in this
money will
country pay zero
collapse and
taxes.
society will fall into absolute oblivion. And I really hope that I'm wrong when I say
Wait,
this.
how did
But
you
no,
how did you get there? How did you get there that money will
no, this
collapse?
is
If
what
we're
I'm saying because the debt is absolutely unable to be paid without an entire change of the system, right? Like the
well, you
way
just
things are
tax
going right
billionaires.
now. Well, no, but I'm saying the way things are going right now,
Right. Oh yeah.
right? So
So
unless
where
what you're
billionaires pay
saying
zero
was to happen,
taxes.
unless what you were saying was to happen, or somehow a bunch of money started getting found somewhere that it's not been
Found.
discovered yet,
I wonder where it is.
this will never get paid back, and eventually it's going to explode in our faces.
Maybe. There's
And
actually
so,
there's a going theory that basically that's the old way of thinking, and actually economists have been discussing this for a while, that, as long as everybody agrees that whoever we're borrowing from is just never gonna collect, it's kind of like, imagine if you owed the bank $1,000,000 but then also you were best friends with the bank, and the bank manager is like, "Yeah, you know what? I'll never ask you to pay it back, whatever." Like, that's kinda where we're at. It's like, we owe other countries, we owe ourselves, we owe people, but we all realize, like, the world is better if we don't ask for the money back, because the moment we ask for the money back and everybody starts paying each other back, that's chaos. Like, it's gonna cause repercussions, like you said, where everyone's gonna start asking for their money back. Everyone. And that's gonna just be like, "Whoa." So, basically, we all just realized, like, you know what? The world kinda is okay if we don't need to pay back our debts all the time. Poor people do, obviously. Poor people need to pay for their car and their house, but when you're a country and you're borrowing trillions of dollars, it's kind of an illusion that you really truly need to pay back because you owe other countries. And the other country, like China's not gonna come over and say, "Hey, we want all of our money back right now," because we would just stop trading with them and their economy would collapse. So we kinda China and America have a gun to each other's head, and we've agreed, "If you don't pull the trigger, I won't pull the trigger." And then we just for decades, you can literally do that for decades. It's like it's an economic version of the nuclear bomb. It's mutually assured destruction where, okay, both sides have nukes, and because both sides have them, nobody uses them. That's been proven. That's just how politics works now. And it's the same thing with deficit. Like
Well,
China owes people
that's the
money, we owe
theory
people
behind
money.
that's like the theory behind getting a black belt too, is to become somebody dangerous so that you don't have to
You
fight.
don't ever get in a
It's
fight.
not
Yeah,
actually to fight anybody, right? It's simply
exactly.
to posture
It's a
yourself in a
deterrent.
way to deter fighting, right?
Exactly,
Because
exactly.
we're both against war, we're both against military intervention, we're both
Yes.
against a lot of, it seems like we
I'm
see eye to
against
eye on
people
a
dying.
lot. Yes.
Like,
But so
sorry to say that, but
if you're against people dying, and you see on the news every day that there's a bunch of people dying in a country across the world, is that the responsibility of our military? Now, obviously, I understand that's nuanced because it depends which allies we're
everything
with
is
and
nuanced.
all sorts of different factors. But it's like, for a lot of history, we've been the world's policemen, right? And then we find out after the fact that, oh, well, we've been lied to. There was no ship at the Gulf of Tonkin. There was no WMDs in Iraq.
It's expensive,
Um,
by the way,
and we've
but
just slaughtered how many civilians because of this? And
and
it just
lost
repeats, right?
soldiers, patriots. We lose our own patriots for, like,
Lose our
um
own citizens, decimate
um,
people's cities. And it's like,
so
so how are you even supposed to believe? One, how are you
so
supposed to even believe the story you're being fed? And two, is this something that like we want the military intervening with, right? Because you see, I really
tax
am trying to
dollars,
be
deficit
careful here, but
spending.
it's like
Yeah.
you
Oh,
see things going on in Ukraine and Gaza that are terrible, and you see civilians losing their lives, and like
mhm.
morally, it's like abhorrent to me, right?
Atrocious.
To
It's
see it, right?
atrocious.
You see
Yeah.
the videos, you're like, this is absolutely
Both sides are
terrible.
losing. Both sides are
But I
losing
don't
people.
think our military should be anywhere near it
Well, so can I answer your question
until it affects
with
us. But it's like, when does it affect us, right? This is what's difficult about
well,
being the
yeah.
president, right? It's like you have to somehow make a
You
decision
need to
like
see
that.
it
And it's
coming
like,
before it hits. Yeah. Like you want to preferably you would prefer to avoid Pearl Harbor and to know that it's coming and stop it before it happens. But if you don't and it surprises you, then you're kind of like that's just fate and you got to deal
or
with
if
it.
you know
But
it's coming and you encourage it because you have economic interests and
yeah,
stuff like
well,
that. Not that
and
anyone
that's
did that or would ever do
oh,
that,
nobody
but
would ever do that. Yeah.
not that you would ever posture yourself in a way to make someone attack you. But
I think to bring it back a little bit to answer your question, I think the best thing we could do for the world is to lead by example. And the problem is we lost our way. Basically, after World War II, we were king of the jungle, and it's good to be king for a while because you get to eat as much as you want, you get to do whatever you want. But then the problem is eventually you're like, what do you do? With like we were growing from like 1850 to 1950, we went from a farm country to a world superpower. We were growing. We were like running a race where we weren't in first place. Then you win the gold medal, and then you party,
Well, this
and then you
comes
realize,
back
like,
into the enemy image, right? Because we
well,
became the world superpower
maybe,
because of an
maybe,
enemy image, right? We had to defeat the Nazis. And then the Nazis weren't here. And then it turned into the Cold War. Okay, we have to beat Russia in the space race, right?
right. And
And
then
then once things
theoretically, we
settled
did.
down with Russia a little bit, or like even at the same time overlapping, it's like, okay, well, this
Theoretically,
isn't enough, right? We
yeah.
need to go into Vietnam too. We need to stop Korea. We need to go and
We need to
do
stop
regime.
communism.
We have
We
to
need to
take down
stop
Saddam Hussein, right?
communism. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or go into Venezuela or Cuba or yes, endless.
All these communist countries,
What the
yeah.
hell does this have to do with me or my constitution or like me as an American? Like, yes, World War II, we got attacked.
Well,
Nine
because
11, we
basically,
got attacked, right? But like, what the hell did Iraq have to do with that? Because they didn't.
so there's a lot to unpack there again. But I think,
So it's been a lie almost every single time. It's like it's just
well,
to have the enemy image, right? So that the society works, so that the money can keep going to the bankers and
so that
the
the money flows, right?
war
Keep the money
machine.
flowing, keep the economy flowing, keep the money flowing. And the last thing this country ever wants is for rich people to give some of their money to poor people. I mean, that cannot happen because poor people don't deserve it, right? I think we started this call out with, like, basically you said something like, well, if you're not smart enough to make the money, you don't deserve it. And so basically you deserve to be poor because either you don't work hard enough or
Well,
you're not
no,
smart enough.
I wasn't trying
And
to frame it like
I'm not
that though. I want to
I'm
clarify.
not putting the words in your mouth. Yeah, I'm sorry I said that. It's more like that's
I
kind
was
of like a
trying to
common
say
thinking though.
I was trying to say in the nicest way possible,
Mhm.
like that it's a
You're a
simple
good person,
fact
so
that
yeah, yeah.
there are people with higher IQs than other and like the idea that
Well,
that
maybe.
wouldn't set you like I mean and there are
People
people with
have
high
different
IQs that totally
specialties.
ruin their lives too. Like there are people it's not simply about that, but I'm saying like that there are people with specialties and talents and abilities that other people don't have. And
Right.
in
But
a
which specialty is
society
more valuable than other specialties?
well, value
Here's the
that's
crux of
self-created, values like self-created, value isn't real.
and
Like
here's the crux of
the
communism. We
the
finally reached
the
it.
actor isn't actually worth $90 million. Some
We
producer
finally
in
made
some
it.
company has
57
decided
minutes.
it.
We made it to the crux of communism. It took less than an hour. That's not bad. Basically, basically, a thing is only as valuable as somebody's willing to pay for it. And generally speaking, as we said earlier on, most people don't really know why they think the things they think and that they do the things they do. They just do it basically because somebody told them to. Not because they sat around and thought about it, but because they were told to do it or they were told to think it. And so that also applies to the economy. If somebody tells you a movie ticket is worth $20, most people go, okay, well, okay, it's $20. I want to go see the movie. Most people will not say, you know what? I'm just going to wait for it to come out on Netflix, so I marginally only pay like $1 for it. Because people generally, we have told people that you should, whatever you want, you should get it as soon as possible. Don't be patient. Consume, consume, eat, eat, eat. Watch everything you can now, because if you can force people to do that, you can charge higher prices. That's kind of the whole point. Is like you don't want to wait to see this movie on DVD. You got to see it now in theaters. That's the whole point of marketing the movie. Marketing falls apart. If people become more patient and they wait, things get cheaper over time. That's just the law of finance. Like basically, time value of money, goods depreciate. It's like people are not taught patience. People are taught impatience. And so, I'm not trying to deviate too far, but I think the point of that when we try to value one skill versus another skill, the value really just comes from how well people can market the value of their skill. If you can convince somebody that your motivational speech is worth $5,000 and people pay it, your motivational speech is worth $5,000.
Well,
That's
so
it.
this is another point that I'm making, which is that it's a lot of it's just about how you posture yourself, right?
Marketing.
I still fully believe that it's possible for anyone to make it. But that
Yeah.
also means that I believe that there's plenty of people out there that never will because they won't posture themselves correctly. And this
Or they're
comes
not taught
down,
how.
this is,
Yeah.
well, this is the moral
Well,
versus, this is the what
yeah.
I believe morally versus what I believe should be done about it difference,
They
right?
shouldn't be
Because,
different technically, but I'll let you have that one.
well, no, because like I fully like believe in winning and that like trophies are awarded to everybody and that like that people should strive to be the best and to believe in
Yes,
themselves and to
I
want to
agree.
win and to want to win big, right? Like, because if you have enough growth, like the idea, yes, you're gonna get a couple bad actors that become ungodly rich and just go around the rest of their lives wasting money as if it's not even anything and just getting
Like
to
Jeff
live a life
Bezos.
that's completely unfair to the rest of the world. But
Right.
you're also hopefully going to have a ton of people rise up from poverty and have jobs at companies that wouldn't have existed without it and have communities being redone and investments being made in certain parts of the city that's like bad and hopefully have charities popping up and like people donating to, you just have to
The
believe
philanthropy, yeah. Well,
that
okay, but
people
we
will
believe,
somehow
but
pull it
how is that
off
going
if
for us?
society got good enough, right?
How's that
Because
going
right
for
now
us?
we don't have a good society or a successful version of capitalism. We
Okay,
have
so the
a
status quo,
extremely skewed, but how do you fix this without the government
you tax
intervening? This is
billionaires.
where
You
the,
can't.
but see,
That you
this
can't.
is
You
where it
can't
becomes very, very, very difficult
unless you
to
shame
stick
them.
by the total libertarian like viewpoint, right? Because it's like, well, I want the IRS burned into a pile of ashes, right? Like
Or
I
automated. How about automated? It sounds
no,
nicer.
like
Yeah.
bulldozed,
No. Well,
scrubbed from history. We don't.
if you
It's
automate it, then nobody will need to work there, and that's basically like
no.
bulldozing
I'm
it. But
saying is if
yeah,
it
I get it.
doesn't
I get it.
exist,
Yes.
it's not a thing, right? There are the only taxes that may exist, and so there's a difference between perfect libertarianism and what could actually be implemented, right?
Right. Well,
Because
because
what could
perfection is
actually be
unknowable.
implemented is something much more reserved, right? Like, so no taxes under 1 million, right? Like, if you make under $1 million a year, you never pay a single dollar in taxes. Anyone over that 45, but so that's where you said maybe you can have an almost joint version of the two, right? Because like there
Well,
are
I would
areas
say
where
billionaires right
compromises
now
could be
pay zero
made.
percent. The problem is billionaires pay 0%, and nobody knows
Right.
that.
But like,
Nobody
so
knows that.
I'm
Well, okay, you
not
say
gonna
you roll
act
your eyes like
insane.
that's not the problem, though.
No,
The
I
problem is
didn't,
like,
I haven't
uh,
confirmed that. I will have to, I'm not calling you a liar. I believe
I
you
know.
know your stuff, but
Call
like it
call me a liar.
sounds
That's fine.
shocking. You
Well,
would think it would be at least
because I know how
20%,
they're doing it.
even.
Oh, you'd think. You would hope. You would think, but it's not. And
Well,
it's because
so
they've figured
people
out a
always
loophole.
try and find loopholes and ways
They
around the
found a
laws.
loophole. They found a
Our
loophole.
government even does it to try and do
You want me to tell
things
you the
that
loophole?
are,
I'll tell you the loophole.
yes.
Yeah, so they just borrow their entire income and never pay it back. So basically, they figured out a trick. So Jeff Bezos has, oh, I don't know, hundreds of billions of dollars in Amazon stock, right? So he goes to the bank and he says, I want to borrow $50 million from you. And then he goes out and he spends it. He uses it on his credit card. He goes to restaurants, he goes flights around the world. That's how he lives his life. He borrows the money, lives his life. At the end of the year, he goes back to the bank and says, hey, I want another $50 million. And the bank goes, well, we already gave you 50. And he goes, okay, give me 100 million and I'll use 50 of that to pay off the 50 that you just gave me. And they go, okay, well, because Jeff Bezos, you're worth $500 billion. So we'll give you a loan for 100 million. So now he takes that 100 million, pays off the 50 million that he owed for the previous year, and now he has another $50 million to go spend. At the end of the second year, he goes, hey, I want another $50 million. You see where this is going? Jeff, we already lent you $100 million. Okay, give me $150 million. I'll take 100 million of that and pay off the 100 million I owe you. Now I have another $50 million to spend this year. And you can do that
So,
forever because his stock price keeps going up. And because he can borrow against his stock, And loan, by the way, loan income is not taxable because you don't own it. You're borrowing it and you pay it back.
But doesn't every company, like even smaller ones, try to figure out ways to like recuperate their
Yeah,
losses or write it off as something on paper where
of course,
they
of
don't have to
course,
pay anything?
of course. But I'm asking you, do you think that it's fair a man who has that much money should also pay zero taxes?
No.
But just because he was clever enough to find a way around it, do you think that's really good for society?
Does what I think,
Libertarian?
does
Yes,
what
it
I
does.
think as a human being,
Matter? Yes.
well, not does it matter? Like, do I, just because I think something's wrong, does that
Does
mean
that make it
that
wrong? Oh,
I
that's a good question.
want to hand the power over to the government to stop it with police? Is the
Well, so
question.
that's okay. So my answer is, if you
Because
don't want to use the
obviously
government, then we ought to do
the
something else. We got to shame them. So
only
the
way
public
that
needs to step
man,
in and shame them.
so that's what we're doing here, arguably, right?
Arguably, we're
Say this
starting
video
the
takes off
shame
one
train,
day, say it has a million views,
or 100 million.
your voice is out there, right? And
Right.
more people will
And
listen
going,
to it and listen to you
okay,
say
ready?
that.
Jeff Bezos, how much money do you need? I just tell me a number. You know what? I don't know what the number is. You tell me how much you need, and everything above that can probably be poured back into the society which helped you get to where you are. Maybe. I don't know. You tell me. How about that? Deal?
Me tell you or
Not,
him?
I'm talking to Jeff, and
Him, if he
now we're
watches it, yeah.
end scene. Okay. But that's
So
kind of like my
no, I
point is
mean,
like,
it's like I totally feel where you're coming from on a lot of this as a person. It's
so
just
to answer
like,
your question earlier about like, okay, you don't go to everybody. You go to the Forbes list and you start with number one. Okay, richest person, how much do you need? And then they go, oh, okay, fine, you can have 20% because I only need 80%. Okay, now they're not the richest person anymore. Now you go to the richest person. How much do you need? Okay, fine, you're gonna have 20%. Now they're not the richest person anymore. And you literally just like a totem pole, you only ever focus on the richest person. Ever. Because if you ask the richest person, how much money do you need? The richest person on the planet, they're gonna tell you, I need all of my money. I need
well,
all of
see,
it.
because one of the reasons I wanted to talk is like, I feel like until people realize that there needs to be some sort of compromise and that it can't just be automatically you hate each other, nothing will ever get solved. So when you say like a perfect version of this or a perfect version of that, it will never exist on either side. It's
No,
going to be
but
a
it's a blueprint.
culmination of the
Right.
two ideas.
It's
I'm
a
crazy to
goal.
say this, but I'd
Yeah.
like to see, I really hope I see either a third party president at some point or a joint ticket where it's like you've borrowed ideas from both sides and you just have some sort of
I
an
would love that.
operation going where
A blue president
you
and a
don't
red vice
you
president or
don't
vice
have,
versa.
yeah, where you don't have like huge things being changed, but you still have new ideas from both aisles coming in, right? Because while I believe that like the average
That would be
person
so
should
nice.
not have an income tax, I obviously would admit that even if I became
Interesting.
dictator of America tomorrow, that I would still have to look at the situation and I'm probably going to come up saying, okay, we're going to tax some of these billionaires so that I can pay down the deficit and help society, right?
And fix
Like
the
it's not like
roads,
I'm
right?
just going to say,
Yeah.
go go buy whatever you want, guys. Like it's free
Right.
game now.
Oh, no, no.
Monopoly.
It's
No,
it's like
we're not
it's
trying to do Monopoly
triage.
here.
You go into an ER and if you have one doctor and you've got 10 patients, you look for the person who's closest to dying and you start with them. It's triage. You start with them, you fix them up, and then you go, okay, now who's closest to dying? And you go to them. It's kind of like the reverse order of what I'm saying about if you only ever tax the richest person, you just work your way down and that's how you close the wealth gap. Like that's not you're not holding a gun to anybody's head because you're literally just asking, okay, we're going to shine the spotlight on the richest person, and everybody in the world just ask them everywhere they go, how much money do you need?
Well, that's
And you do
very
that over and over
different.
again.
That is very different than an idea which you had said earlier, which would be everyone having the equal amount of money.
Right. And
Or the
well, okay. We're
communism
talking
as
about
Karl
the
Marx
end goal.
explains, correct?
Karl Marx. I like Peter
Or
Kropotkin,
maybe
but
okay, well, I'm just
yeah,
saying, like,
yeah. I get your point.
I'm just saying, yeah, you understand what I'm saying. I'm
I do. I get
saying
it.
what you
Well, the
just
difference
said
is
is a
there's the
much
end
what you
goal
just said are much more tame ideas that could actually be implemented. But when
implemented.
people hear this word, they're like, okay, cameras on the street watching my gate, social credit score,
Oh
um,
yeah.
government, not, control of the media, no free
Yeah.
speech,
I
no
think we've
right to
said
gun
almost every
ownership.
buzzword on this video. Yeah. It's funny though. I get your point.
Well,
I get
I'm
your point.
saying that is what, when people hear that word, a lot
Communism.
of people,
Yeah.
maybe more so people that lean towards the right, think that, right? Like they think no freedom of speech, government ran media, no right to gun ownership,
Yeah.
um,
None of that is communism.
the government seizing your goods and controlling the
Communism
company,
communism just cares
social
about
credit
money.
score, cameras, whatnot. That is what people associate with that.
Yeah. Well, by design, right? Because we've spent like 50 years basically demonizing communism in every possible way. And do you trust the people who've been demonizing it? Is
I
that a
don't
fair
trust
question?
anybody. I
Okay, so
don't
then if you
trust
don't trust the people
anyone.
who've been demonizing communism, okay, well, you should probably trust yourself. You should start there.
Yeah,
Um,
myself. That's it.
I get it. Yeah, so I'm just
Myself and
asking.
my inevitable end are the only two things in this world that I
Communism
trust.
has nothing to do with freedom of speech, has nothing to do with military, the police, or guns. That's all political ideologies. Communism is an economic policy that says, how should money be handled? Should people be allowed to make as much money as they want? Because if you let them do that, you get Elon Musk, who sits like a dragon on a giant mountain of gold, who literally just he doesn't even need it, but he's like, yeah, well, it's kind of like I said, like an arcade machine where I just want to have the high score. I don't care. I don't care how many people are out there homeless. I don't care. I want the high score. That's where his life is
But
at.
so
And society has to
you're
ask,
saying that there can be a communist government, or however you
a
want to define that.
libertarian communist,
I'm
yeah,
using your
libertarian
word,
communism.
where there would still be freedom of speech, right to own
Of
property
course.
without like being in fear of the government taking it.
Yeah.
Without a ton of surveillance, without.
Yeah. Because communism
So
has
then,
nothing to do with any of that. You get my point, right? You can have a libertarian communist society
well,
because libertarian is political, communist is economic.
I mean, you know how, what is the word? Everything is designed to piss you off, right? So the only time you
Yeah.
ever hear someone bring this up, it's like, oh, he's a communist. He's this, he's that.
He's a
He's
fascist,
all sorts of
communist. Yeah.
buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, well, what does this actually mean, right?
Right.
Because
Well,
see, I'm seeing certain things happen around the world, like in other countries, like I don't want to, I'm just pulling from memory, but like I have
mhm.
seen in other places that like the internet's becoming a lot less free, and that people have started having the police and stuff show up to their house over things that they've said online. And like I am totally against like the speech being controlled by the government in any way, right? Like
Me too.
I,
First
even
Amendment,
though I
all the way.
absolutely hate the Ku Klux Klan and Nazis and like people of fringes like that have terrible things to say
I
about the
think I
world.
pity them more than I hate
It's
them
like
because they're pretty
I
stupid.
believe that they're allowed to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I think they're allowed to be stupid. I think that's fair. People are allowed to be stupid because you can't force someone to educate
You're
themselves.
allowed to say something terribly offensive, like you
Right.
shouldn't, and
But then
society should
it's
shun
just
you, right? But
educate,
like,
right? Shun you and educate you. Should we kill people for saying things that we don't like? No, that's a slippery slope because then basically the moments the political winds change, suddenly one day you're saying something that's okay, the next day you're saying something that's not okay, and you can't run a society on that. Like
well,
you
and
need to have,
you know that the news misrepresents everything. So like it's
and
like I'm
everything's
walking on
distorted.
eggshells here, but I'm saying
Right.
like I have seen videos and stuff coming up recently in other countries where you wouldn't expect it to be happening, where it's like the police are showing up to people's house over an opinion on Facebook. And it's like,
Mhm. But
I
I would ask you,
really
why do
don't
you think
want
that's
to ever.
communism?
Well, no, I'm just like, I'm trying to like maybe buy you a little bit of uh, an opportunity to explain yourself
Yeah,
away
yeah,
here, because if people actually, well, it's been 75 minutes, there's probably not going to be many people that watch it this far, but
yeah. I think we're in the safe zone here. The only
I'm
people watching
trying to
this are the fringe.
understand. I'm trying to
Or the FBI.
understand. Right, or this, yeah. Um, where was I going? I've lost what I was saying.
No, just that you're conflating that with communism. You're saying that the police showing up at your door and telling you, "We're arresting you because you said something we don't like." You think that's communism. That's not
Well,
communism,
I'm
that's
sure you've heard how
totalitarianism.
our president talks about it and what a lot of people
Well,
out
he
there
by the way,
believe.
he's
So I'm
doing it.
trying
You
to,
know he's doing that,
I'm,
by the way.
I'm trying to explain what it is
Like,
people associate with that word and give you a shot to like say,
it's
hey,
totalitarianism.
you're not, you're conflating
You're conflating
this with
communism with
totalitarianism.
totalitarianism, and they're not the same thing. They're actually not at all the same thing, and they're not related. And the problem
So
is,
we're both
historically,
against that idea, right? Like
of
we
course,
want people that have things to say that
totalitarian is
we
a
would never say
terrible
to have
idea
the right to say it, right?
all the time.
Okay.
The right to own guns, good. I hope you never have to use them, but go ahead, go to the shooting range all you want. What the hell? Like, if you get your rocks off by taking a gun and shooting at a barrel of hay for an hour a week, go for it. I take a little bit of issue if you start hunting animals, only just because I feel like that's not necessary, but we don't need to go into that
Well,
right now.
that's a moral thing too, and
That's a moral
there's,
thing.
if not everywhere, issues tags, and you have to actually use the animal. You're not allowed to just kill it for fun. Now
Yeah,
you do have feral hog hunts and all sorts of ridiculous things
yeah,
going on in Texas and other places where people pay to go up in a helicopter and just shoot them for fun, and it's like, you
yeah, I
know,
think it's just weird. Okay,
morally,
my
obviously, I know
morally, I
that's
just think it's
wrong,
weird.
right? But
Like, why if you could do anything, why is it fun for you to go shoot animals? That's like I
But
think
then
that's just a
again,
question, like,
the only reason they allow it is because they do so much damage to the other animals in the ecosystem that they have
but that's
recruited the
nature.
public to. Well, yes,
So
but
we are taking dominance
so is
over nature.
survival of the fittest, right?
Well, so basically what you're
Without
saying
people
is,
intervening for the greater good of the ecosystem, those
what is the
animals would
greater
win.
good of the ecosystem?
That's up to a human to decide. That's where it gets tricky, right? Because some human has decided that these animals are less important than the other ones
Right.
and that they're going to win,
These
right?
should
So we're
die
going to
and
kill
these
them.
should win arbitrarily because I
It's
like these and
actually
I don't
kind
like
of like a
these.
good analogy for the the thing, right? Because
Mhm.
unrestricted, these animals would destroy everything and take over everything, and nobody would ever be able to stop them. But
Kind of like humans.
the people have started going out and taking them out. But it's not always like, we can say whatever we want to say about the hunters because some of them are literally just there to kill. But like for the
Well, I
most
think they
part,
all of them literally are there to kill.
well, I'm saying like some people genuinely do it. Like they start companies to become successful off of something that technically, if you agree with the people who have decided it, needs done to protect that society and that ecosystem and the other animals,
Yeah.
right?
Well, like defense
Something that's
contractors. Like companies that make missiles are doing that. They're like millions, okay, thousands, tens of thousands, however many people work in the defense industry show up every day because they believe that what they're doing is for the greater good. And it probably is. I'd say 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, it is for the greater good, but we get it wrong sometimes, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. Um, it's always asking the question, "What are we aiming for?" Because the moment you stop asking, "What are we aiming for?" and you just let somebody do whatever the hell they want just because they have so much power they can do whatever they want, that's totalitarianism. And then suddenly, if somebody goes, "Wow, I can do whatever I want," well, I don't want anybody to make fun of me, and anybody who makes fun of me, put them in jail. That's where you get it from. That's you get Stalin, Mao. If you give any one person too much power, they start to just do whatever the hell they want because nobody can tell them no. That's where you get it from. That's what totalitarianism is you have a king or a dictator. Okay, is this starting to sound familiar? Dot, dot, dot is my point. Like, it has absolutely nothing to do with communism, but for 50 plus years, our government has been telling us that communism equals totalitarianism. Communism bad. Totalitarianism bad, communism bad. Same thing. And most people don't care enough to read even a Wikipedia article about what communism even is, because they would rather watch football or read celebrity gossip or, I don't know, have
Well,
sex or
no,
like go to the bar.
I have looked into the actual
I'm not
definition
no, I'm
of
not talking about
what it
you.
is.
I'm saying in
Well,
general, like the
I'm
general
just saying,
population.
like, I actually have looked into it. And
Mhm.
it's like, when you look, it's like, well, and I don't know that I would want America to be a full blown communist country, but like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, the idea that this could exist somewhere and work isn't necessarily something I've completely discredited, right? Because I've read a lot of the like actual real ideas and looked into a little bit of what the original philosophers had to say about it. And
Right.
I understand that China and Russia and other things that would be historically
Communist.
cited as an attempt at this
Communist.
are
Yeah. Yeah.
at best totalitarian communist
Socialists. Yeah.
dictatorships, right? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
anyways,
But you can see why. I
I
think
think
you
now that we're
understand.
nearing 80 minutes, we should attempt to
Yeah.
wrap it
Wrap
up.
it up here.
But
Yeah. So
I've
to wrap it
enjoyed it,
up.
and I say that you do whatever you want with the link. If you want to put it on your other handle,
Oh
go
yeah.
right
Sure.
ahead, put it up on
Sure.
the
Sure.
story. However it is you want to try and get some viewers to it, because my videos will sit and sometimes they just take off at random, but nothing's really went big yet. So
Yeah, I'll
give
think
it
about
your,
it. No
think about
promises
it.
either way, because I just, I have to
Yeah, no, I
strategize.
got you.
But can we cap it off here by just asking, can you see how it's possible that maybe totalitarianism and communism have been conflated, but they're not the same thing?
I think that's something I already like knew, but that's because I'm very, very into history and
Deal.
politics on a deeper level than most people.
Right. But that's fair.
But
That's
then
I just wanted
again,
to
when we
bookend
start
it.
talking about it, I automatically just like start regurgitating, like, or at least trying to clarify for the viewer, right? Because I
Right,
know
right,
what most of the questions are going to be and what most people associate with it. So I kind of know
right.
what kind of questions are good
Our
to ask
zero
and what the
viewers.
buzzwords are. Yeah. Well, event earlier at points there was people in here. It's just
Yeah, that's true. They just got bored.
it's
That's
going
fine.
too long.
I'm not offended. Yep. We'll end it here. I appreciate it. This was
But
fun.
that's what I said about think about putting it up on that other account, because what I do for a lot of these videos to get them started is I'll send out the link in mass on Snapchat. And once I get the first little kick at the beginning, sometimes people start watching, commenting, and
Yeah, we'll see what
I'm
this.
still
I
trying to
like the
figure it out
title.
myself.
It's
Yeah.
a good title.
No, so that's what I'm saying. Like, and if I put an entertaining thumbnail on that and that's the title and you send it out, then it's like people will click it.
You
It's
never
just
know.
up to
We'll
you
see.
what you do with it. It's
Yep.
gonna take a while to post though, because we're at 83 minutes,
Yeah,
so
that's
it'll be
fine.
it'll
Yeah,
be
no
a
worries.
second.
No worries.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you. This was fun.
Well, no, I had a great talk. I mean, I'll talk to you again whenever. If you figure out that, uh, you know, figure out what you'd like to do with this
Yep.
and get back to me,
I'll,
because,
I'll noodle on it. Yeah.
like I said, dude, as far as I'm concerned, it's simply freedom of speech. And if somebody gets
First
offended
Amendment
that I simply talked to you, or that I wrote the word libertarian under the title to describe myself, then that's
or
probably not someone that
communist.
was. That's probably not somebody that was going to last very long on
They're
this
not going to
journey
make
with
it
me,
this
anyways.
far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway. Yep. I get you. Yep. Sounds
All
good.
right, man.
Thank you. Have
Peace.
a good
We'll
night.
talk again.
Cheers.